your radio dial. You are tuned in to the Mark Order Podcast. Join the Mark Order.
Hello. It's Wednesday night, so you know what that means. It's another episode of the Mark Order Podcast. It's me, Ryan. I know maybe you're expecting Kate, and you're hearing someone much sexier, and I apologize for that. But I am joined with my normal Saturday co-host, Joseph. Joseph, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Coming off a banger of a pay-per-view with Dynasty, and then, you had tonight's Dynamite was okay, but otherwise, yeah, can't complain. How about you?
Bad. I'm on the same spot. Do the hard cut because I like the hard cut. It makes me laugh. Because radio guys hate it. I will get into tonight. I actually think tonight would have been considered very good if not for the technical issues that have nothing to do with that's TBS related. But we'll get into that. So I guess we should start with Dynasty, since you and I are boring people and have nothing to talk about.
Oh, we're going to talk to
No, wait.
Oh, what?
You are going to Did you get into Castaneda yet?
No, I still haven't. You said Dynasty, so I thought, oh, you're talking about the Knicks. Okay.
They haven't won it yet, buddy. I mean, I know they got the refs on their side and all, but
just let them eat while they can.
I mean, it's when you bribe the refs, you can do whatever you want.
But no, the real Dynasty. The
real Dynasty. I love talking trash because I don't care enough. I really like the Sixers. In fact, I love them. But they lose, they lose. I just don't have that in me to let it ruin my days.
Same.
Okay. So we are not going to do, for all those listening, watching, thank you. Hi, Scott. Hi, Lord Kev. We're not going to do a match-by-match breakdown of Dynasty. There's no purpose. It's been long enough. I mean, not long enough, but it's been a few days and people. But there's a couple things I wanted to highlight. First is we have a unified trios belt that came in the 0 hour. I think that's kind of what we were hoping for, right?
Yeah, I think that's what we were hoping for. That's what we got. Let's get rid of the scissor belts and just have one belt.
Yeah, I just want one belt. I think if you're not going to use ROH, right, then the 6-man and the trios work together because you can float them in between. Hi, Kylie. So yeah, I'm with you. So listen, no one can ever say you can't get good matches from the Acclaimed. The matches was entertaining. It's just the act has run course, and Max's run has worn out his welcome for most people. So I get it. I think our first match of the night was Pac versus Okada, which again I will go match by match, but I guess, but not in depth. If there's something you want to say besides to me, just what we expected. Anything?
No, I mean, it lived up to what I thought it was going to be. I thought it had the potential to be my second favorite match of the night. And it was either second or tied for second.
Yeah, I think tied. It wouldn't think Strong and O'Reilly kind of hit that for me. But then we go into the trios match: Copeland, Kingston, Briscoe versus House of Black. House of Black won. Why is 1LT? Why are you laughing? All I gotta say is thank God House of Black won.
I mean, they were the established team, so it made sense. They needed the wins, so.
We went on to TBS, Willow versus Julia. We had all predicted in our prediction show ahead of time that we thought Willow would win in a relatively quick match because of Julia being backed up. Seems to be exactly what we got.
It went longer than I thought it would, actually, though.
That is true. It was still relatively short, but longer than we thought, considering that Julia is just, from what we hear, not in great physical condition at the moment.
Yeah, so kudos to her for being a pro and working through that.
Okay, when LT's laughing at TK taking a Meltzer driver, fair, very fair, and we will get to that. That's a very fair thing to laugh at. Then we go to the AEW International Championship match: Kyle O'Reilly versus Roger Strong. Really enjoyed this a lot. I thought this was a great match. Those two delivered at the level I thought they would. Fucking Wardlow causing O'Reilly to lose, but I kind of expected that. I believe, was this a shenanigans match or a hijinks match? I can't remember, but it was a match that had something to it, and it's just continuing the story.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Apparently, there was a match between Hook versus Chris Jericho, where Chris Jericho won the WWE title.
My prediction came right.
You did.
I'm sorry.
Right. I'm going to say this, and we'll get onto it for Dynamite tonight. I'll elaborate. Since Kate's not here, hi, Jesse. Decided I'll keep the gimmick alive only when she's around. If this match, one, I understand what they're doing with Jericho and actually can appreciate that they're leaning into what the crowd is feeling at the moment. This match was just too long. This match could have been cut in half, and it would have been a lot better. There's just no reason to drag it out.
Yeah, and I don't know. Did you feel like you were good heat, or like seriously like go away for a while heat?
I honestly don't know. I think it's a mix of both. I think sometimes people get in on these like they buy in on the boo train, they buy in on the chant train, and it happens the opposite as well, where you buy in on cheering for someone who you because it's just fun.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point in wrestling, it's so hard to get people to hate anyone.
It just seems more. They seem very more vocal against him more than previous crowds up to this point.
Correct.
And I thought the St. Louis crowd was really pretty good and active and loud. So maybe it's just that audience, but it just felt.
He got booed pretty heavily tonight too.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So maybe it's the turning point.
But like again, it's so hard to get in today's wrestling. It's so hard to get anyone to be booed. You know, like let me make it wrong. It's not hard to get booed, but it's hard to get that level of boo. And I think at this point, I don't know if I believe it or not, but I could almost see wrestling companies being like, I don't think it's actually go away heat. Like, I don't think anyone's changing the channel because we put Jericho on. So at least it's a reaction type deal because it could help the face who goes against him, which is actually true. As much as people hate it, whoever beats him will get a little boost from it. People can deny it all they want, but it's happened with other wrestlers in the past. So, then we had the Women's World Championship match, Thunder Rosa versus Timeless Toni Storm. Timeless Toni Storm won. This was awesome. I thought this was a great match. Fucking hard hitting as hell. Any thoughts?
No, I mean, it's what I thought it'd be. I like the style of Tony and Thunder just whooping the crap out of each other. And, you know, you had Deanna kind of show up. So you kind of have Thunder kind of going off into that feud. And I
like the way they've done that, and we'll get that a little bit more. But I like that Yana was saving Thunder to stop Tony, but now it's coming back around to be like, hey, what the hell, man? I like that Thunder Rosa wrestled with no face paint. I like her face paint normally. I just thought it was an interesting twist for this match.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, with the story of like, you know, Tony smearing her face paint and trying to take it off, with her doing it by choice and doing it, showing that she doesn't need the face paint.
Meanwhile, got that old school white face paint on. Then we had maybe the most boring match of all time in Will Ospreay versus Bryan Danielson.
-5 stars.
If I could go to -10 if it was in the Tokyo Dome. Nothing good happened. It's not interesting. I mean, listen, quite possibly one of the best matches. This is up for match of the year already. I don't get into. I will say, obviously, I don't remember matches for shit. I don't get into best match of all time. It's even hard for match of the year because it's what you see when you see it. There's always a recency bias. There's always a how do you feel at the moment? Wait, why do we have 2 LT and 1 LT? Are they feuding? Are we gonna get 3 LT?
Ooh.
Sorry for our listeners. 2 LT's name in the chat is now 2 LT instead of 1 LT, and I gotta know if they're feuding. Yeah, so I don't necessarily buy in. Like, I buy into like saying this match is amazing. This match is one of the greatest I'll ever see. I feel like I've seen this, but I don't. I'm okay with the hyperbole of being like, this is the greatest match I've ever seen. I get what I don't buy into is that people online trying to actually argue that out, because it's just like to me it's like sports moments. Like, this is the greatest comeback of all time until the next awesome
Sure.
comeback. It's like, when the Sixers come back down from 0-2 against the Knicks, that's going to be the greatest comeback of all time. But
But I mean,
No.
I think that's the beautiful thing about art. No matter what kind of art it is, it's all subjective.
we have a 3 LT photo in the chat.
Now you're just making up accounts.
And now he's got an army. He's the LT army. I will say, yes, art is subjective. I will say, for as subjective as art is, this was universally praised for the most part. Like, unless you were a hater who was hating for just because that's how you are.
I'd be
I didn't see a lot of,
you have to be a contrarian.
yeah, that's a good word. I didn't see a lot of that. Of course, I don't follow a lot on that on Twitter and stuff. Like, I will say on our podcast social, especially Twitter, because it's can be one of the more toxic places. I am very good at curating that. I block so many people that have not ever said a word to me. Most of the time it's because they say something shitty to Kate, and I'm like, well, you're off. But if they say something, if they've said something shitty to Kate, Shining Wizards, anybody I like personally, it's like, you're blocked. But sometimes I just block them because I'm like, I know if you see the stuff, all you're gonna do is just be, try to be a troll about it. I'm like, I don't need to deal with you. But that does make my experience much better.
I will say that having the Danielson Ospreay match have such high expectations going into it, having a match like that deliver on those expectations and surpass them is just a true gift to fans and to people who watch the product and who follow along the two guys' careers. Yeah, it blew me away.
One thing, by the way, I was gonna say it out, but I'll say it. 2 LT talking about 2 LT and 1 LT are the same person, for all those listening. And what his he can't Fightful. He 1 LT is a loyal listener, Fightful. That's how he came to us through Kate, and he's a great guy. I mean, he's been awesome, but they accidentally blocked him on Fightful and they can't undo it. The same thing happened to me with the Shining Wizards of all people, and just randomly one day I was fixed. And I don't think anyone has any idea how it happened and how it got fixed. So 1 LT, you never know. On the others, by the way, Mercedes Monet just tweeted, "Say hello to your new CEO," and it's over the video of what happened with at the end. God bless her. But you're dead on. Like, the expectations for this match were literally like, people are like, they're gonna put an all-time classic on. And they did. Like, I don't know how you do that. Like, I don't want to say I fold under pressure, because I don't. I think I do all right under pressure, but that's like another level, especially because they could have went out and had an amazing match and it would have been underwhelming compared to they had to go out and had the match they had to.
I would be interested to someday hear from both of them to tell us, like, looking back at that match, what were the things that you felt like either you missed or you could have done better, that the fans watching it might not notice it, but you as the performer and the wrestler, like, what was it about that match that you thought you messed up on or you didn't quite hit the way you wanted to?
Agreed.
It'd be fascinating to hear that.
WWE for a while was doing. I think they still do it, but they don't do it a lot. It's like they do it sparingly. Well, they'll have two guys sit in front of a screen and they'll go over like their feud and stuff. And I love that when they like break down the tape, basically. But I would love it even on a more intimate level of you're in this match, like you said, you're in this match, this all timer. No one would think you missed a thing. What do you think you missed? Or what did you miss that people think is awesome? Like something because I guarantee I could be wrong. Maybe a wrestler will come one day and say I'm wrong, but I would almost guarantee there's things in matches that are unintentional that end up being awesome. Now I gotta ask, what do you think of the ending then?
I I'm curious to see how they're using the whole injury angle with Brian superselling like he's known for, and then how this is playing an effect onto Will going forward as we saw tonight.
Yeah. So there's a couple. I like one thing I like is so they did the Tiger Driver spot, which is obviously a callback to Will versus Omega, and then they have Brian down. I like that there was very little time between when Brian started acting hurt to when Will nailed him because you had no time to worry about like, is this real? Like you knew instantly it wasn't. Which, as a fan with someone who's had real injuries before, I prefer to know right away we're dealing in story. I don't need to be tricked. I'm a big boy. I don't need to be tricked into believing anything's real. I'm okay living in the kayfabe world, but knowing it's all fake. Like I'm okay with that. Um, I like what it's doing to Will Ospreay though. Like that is a nice character development. That's almost like a form of like the yips. Like it's not quite, but it could develop into it where he can't hit certain moves because he's afraid that they'll hurt someone. I don't know if they're going to go that direction, but that's it was an interesting way to end it, but I liked it. I also liked it because it gives a reason for another match. Yes, it was a clean ending for Osprey. Like, there's no doubt he won clean, but Danielson can come back and say, if you don't hit that, if I don't fall just an inch wrong on that spot, I don't get hurt, and I'm still going. And then in their match, he could get him up for it again. Just saying. My thoughts. Then, surprisingly, the way they split usually after you have a banger like that, you put in like a match that people can get up and walk away from, something to cool their jets.
This is where the Jericho match should have been.
Yes, but instead they put the ladder match for the tag titles between FTR and the Young Bucks, and this was fucking wild. It ended the way we predicted. There was no. We had said we believed that there'd be some tomfoolery with Jack Perry tipping the ladder, and that's maybe not exactly that, but it's close enough. I will say this was a very fun ladder match. They use that in a lot of different ways. Like I remember. Hold on one second. Sorry, I had a really bad itch in my ear. I remember. Forget who it was. I think it was Sean, or maybe it was Scott Hall talking about their ladder matches versus the ladder matches that came later. And they said one of the things. Oh no, it was somebody talking about trying to emulate their match. Sorry, and I'm a bad storyteller, but it's going to come back to this. Where for a while, ladder matches were all about how can you jump off the ladder, how can you land on the ladder, how can you, do all that. And this match had some of that, but the original Sean versus Razor versus and some of the others is when you start using the ladder as a weapon. Like not just hitting, but like when they trapped, I think it was Dax between the two of them, the things, and they start hitting it. Like all that, it just makes it a much more fun match when it's not strictly like, can we get high and fall? It's like, no, it's use this in every basic way you can because the ladder is gonna hurt. I liked the match. I liked the ending. Any thoughts?
No, I'm all for weaponizing ladders. I thought it was nice when they made a ladder match. It was a good call to freshen up this fourth matchup between them. It gave us something different. Like you said, it added different spots and different attacks with the ladder. It just gave it a little different dynamic than previous matches. between them.
It definitely did. And I don't know why Mike Peterson thinks he's our favorite person, but I don't know who told him that lie.
The man in the mirror.
The man in the box.
Should know better.
No. Without Kate here, no one can stop me. We have a world championship match. Swerve Strickland versus Samoa Joe. It's actually kind of a quick match, in my opinion, but I don't think it needed to be long because listen, these two it was actually a really good match. I don't want to say the match itself was bad. It was actually very good. But as I kind of said leading into it, this was all about story. This was all about Swerve becoming champ and beating Joe, and that's exactly what happened. And it was awesome. The match itself was a lot of fun, but I just remember Swerve winning. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think while the match is good, I think the story of Swerve getting to this point, and this is kind of the crescendo of it all. I think the journey of him getting to this point was the story more than the story in the match. If that makes any sense, watching him go through the different characters initially when he first arrived to that turning point against Heyman that really solidified him as being a top guy to being Joe in the main event, and it just kind of culminated.
Agreed. It was more than the match; it was the story. And for those asking, since I didn't actually say where Kate was tonight, you know what? I was gonna lie and say she's like on some weird cruise, but she's got enough weirdos probably hunting her down. She's not on the Fightful show, but she's helping out with some of like the back end stuff with Sean not feeling too well and having a lot of stuff going on. And truthfully, when I hear what the guys, the stuff going on in the guy's personal life with his grandmother, I feel for him. So good for Kate for helping out. She's still a bitch though. I didn't say a thing. All right, so that was Dynasty, a banger of a pay-per-view. Yes, Joe.
One critique.
Okay, critique it.
I felt like they should have switched up the set. I felt like Dynasty felt very much like any other Dynamite Collision. Just the setup, everything pretty much the same. I feel like it needs to be for pay-per-views. I feel like the stage and the setting should be a little bit grander and differentiate a little bit more.
I agree. Sorry, I was agreeing with. I was trying to in my head. I'm trying to think of what you would do with Dynasty, but like you're right. They had like this. They had cool graphics. I will say the Dynasty graphics were cool and the intro. But one thing I always liked about old WCW. This is old like before 2000 WCW is their set. They had special sets for pay-per-views, and I really liked that. Like their Halloween Havoc set is legendary. Like, I think that's cool. So you're right. You could have kept the tunnels, but maybe you do like a dressing around them or something, just something to make it feel like a curtain that they walk through the tunnels or something. I'm not, the smartest man alive, but
just something different LED graphics, just
I agree.
To make it, you can change it up in the video games and everything else that way. So you have, what pay-per-view you're wrestling on in the video games, things like that.
Yeah. I mean, as they broach the potential idea of more and more pay-per-views, like we were already, what are we, like 6 now?
I mean, yeah. I know. I mean, I'm guessing we'll probably get close to 10.
7. I think we're at 7.
Yeah.
All in, all out, Double or Nothing, Full Gear, Revolution. That's 5. Forbidden Door 6. Dynasty 7. Wrestle Dreams 8. So I think it's tough if you're going to get an individual set for each one, but at least going forward, maybe with the 10-pole ones, or the opposite, or one like Dynasty that you're like, hey, we need to make this feel like its own thing,
like the soap opera.
Yeah. So that was Dynasty. Was there any before we get to our commercials and then the actual Dynamite? Was there any real big news and notes this week? I was scouting, but I didn't really think there was because No, that's not really relevant. Nothing I really want to talk about. Obviously, there's some stuff put out there today, some BS reporting, but I'm not going to get into any of that.
The only thing I can think of that was, I know Tony was doing a lot of interviews leading up to Dynasty, and I know he mentioned they were talking about TV deals and all that stuff, and how I think he said that the next deal that there would be some kind of on-demand library of content somewhere.
Yeah, he really hypes up the library. I will say, and I'm oh yeah, I'll cover that too. I'll say, um, I'm gonna hype up another show that's not ours, but it's because someone's smarter than us on the topic. On In the Weeds this morning on Fightful Overbooked, which is the show by Jeremy and Joel, they had on Andrew Zarian. And Zarian's very knowledgeable about the TV, and they had a whole discussion about this. So I'll try to say some of his points, but I would encourage people to actually go and listen. But he thinks he thinks at one point there wasn't going to be a full package, but Tony has been pushing for that. So that's what he thinks. He's not sure if ROH is included in anything. Um, he thinks if anything, it'll be Max with a simulcast of both TV and on Max. Trying to think if there's any, like again, go listen to him. He knows, like, he knows more than he's saying. You know that from the interview. But he's very coy. What I don't blame him. You don't want to give up your sources or anything, but obviously in today's day and age with all the streaming services, something like a library helps because it fills out your whatever. So if you're WBD and you're going to say, well, we're going to pay this for you just to be live, it doesn't hurt to pay maybe just a slight bit extra to get the whole library, so that it encourages people to continue to want to see your stuff. And now that AEW is 5 years in, and the ROH library should, in theory, go with it, you'd have something worth watching. So the other thing that came out in 2LT photo, I'll give him credit, brought up, is the non-compete ruling by the Federal Trade Commission. They basically said most non-competes are illegal, null and void, get rid of them. Now, obviously, there's a couple things here. Just because they ruled that doesn't mean it's law at the moment. That thing's going to be challenged 10 ways over. It's probably going to go to the Supreme Court if they're willing to hear it, because there's just no way in hell businesses let that pass. It doesn't really affect wrestling the way people think it does, because WWE got smart. And from what I saw on Twitter today from Sean and a couple other people, they no longer actually cut you at your 90s. They pay you through. So you're not in a 90-day not compete. You're in a 90-day under contract. And at the end of that, you're done. So that won't affect them because they're paying you. AEW has only done a few cuts, and I don't know what their non-compete status is. AEW, I don't think, has as strong of a non-compete as WWE did begin with, because AEW let other people work indies and stuff like that. Where it's going to get interesting, if this gets signed into law, and if this gets through appeals, and if it actually is like an enforceable thing, is requested releases. If you are AEW or WWE, and you have a guy, not a minor guy, well, and I don't want to pick a name, so we'll just, of the level of close to main event, we'll just say that, and for whatever reason he's unhappy in your organization, you might release him saying, one, well, at least I'll get you 90 days, or two, I'll release you, but you got to know, not compete for the other company for this length of time. Like, you can't work for AEW for a year, or you can't work for WWE for a year. I don't know if this is in place. I am not Fightful, so do not quote me. I just know how businesses work. But I gotta believe that's gonna come into play now, where it's like, well, if I can't enforce that, why am I gonna cut you? I mean, I guess if you don't want to pay them, but like, it I'm not a fan of non-competes, so I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm upset about this ruling. I think some of them. I don't think it's. I think it's a flat ruling on a situational item. Because like I said, a non-compete and you fire me and I can't go someplace, that sucks. A non-compete, well, then the argument is that I can never leave working someplace. I don't know. Non-compete within a certain contracted time is all I care about, but whatever. I'm not a lawyer. I don't speak legalese. Yeah, 2LT was pointing out like some odd companies like Jimmy John's had, and that's actually where the lawsuit came from. They're weird. And again,
but some makes sense. Like if you go somewhere else and give away, business IP business things, that how Jimmy John's runs their business, and you can work at a different sandwich shop. I get that there could be those kind of factors.
yeah, I'm a big fan of like if I sign like my opinion on non-competes has always been if I sign a contract for 3 years with you, if you're choosing to honor like and you fire me, your non-compete should be null and void because you fired me. If I quit, it should not be. I should have to honor it because I'm the one not honoring. And the reason being is, again, it's maybe I'm looking at it too, whatever, but I just feel like they
Yeah.
exist for a reason. They got abused, but
I feel like a lot of times there's a lot of insecurity among businesses or operations, or when, for example, you have a coach, like a college football coach or something, and they get fired and they get a buyout. But that sometimes during their buyout, they have a negotiation of you can't take a job at these schools in the same conference.
So I know, to me, my experience in life, I'm not giving away any of my personal details here. It's just my familiarity. The
What's
two
your
times
social
I've run into
Oh.
888-88-88-88-88.
Wow. Lucky.
It's a very long social security number.
Easy to remember.
Yeah. So I've seen them, personally seen them in effect with two different fields. One was technology, but like the back end of technology, like creating technology. Like you said, then you're talking about proprietary stuff. And I know patents and all are supposed to prevent that, but when you're in the development stage, you get into like, and the second is after business mergers. They're a big deal in business mergers. If I own we'll just do technology. If I own a tech firm, or no, even better, I own a sales company and I merge with Joe's sales company. And then Joe's basically it's a merger, but he's buying me. Like so it's a buyout. He's buying my entire company. I'm selling it to him. He wants me to sign a non-compete for like 3 to 5 years because the next day I could go out and open Ryan's sales company again and steal back half my customers. And then what did he just buy from me? So like there are non-competes that like that makes sense. But truthfully though, you could structure that like so that it's not a non-compete. Like I'm sure there's ways around that, but again, the problem is they've been abused. Jimmy John's, some of the stuff they put in was ridiculous. The way WWE used to, they've gone away from it, but the way they used to operate their non-competes never made sense to me. You fired me, but I can't work somewhere else. Like that just, the math there doesn't add. But that's getting into, see, 2LT signed it for a sports memorabilia buyout. Coming buyouts is very popular because, especially if you're in a company that doesn't actually like have a product, like a real product to sell. If you're in sales or something service oriented, I could take it from you right away. Like I could just start up tomorrow and take all my customers back. So I've seen that a couple times in real, and that's why a lot of times if you ever, and we are going to commercial, but it's just funny. You'll see in a sale the selling president or the selling CEO gets a really sweetheart deal at the new place, it's really just to keep them from going out and competing. I mean, that's really what it is. All right. So now that I've given my opinion on that weird stuff, before we go to commercial, I do want to say that you should support us because we are not rich people abusing non-competes. You should support us by going to our Pro Wrestling Tees store and buying a t-shirt. And it's Pro Wrestling Tees / Mark Order Pod, ProWrestlingTees.com / Mark Order Pod. We have one of 4 shirts. The favorite, I like them all. I do. The 2 favorites I've seen have been the pocket one and the one with our symbol big on front. They're the 2 favorites I've noticed from people because we have a really cool symbol. Logo, not symbol. Jesus. You can, so again, it's ProWrestlingTees.com / Mark Order Pod. If you're like, I can't type that out, I don't remember it, I'm a silly goose. If you go to any of our socials at Mark Order Pod, there's a link tree. Click the link tree, you can go to the store. It's that simple, people. Okay, now I do my pitch that, hey, Joe, we're on a network, and there are other shows on this network, and we like to hype those other shows up.
I do.
Here's where I do that.
Do it.
So what I do is I turn up the music.
Tell us.
It's going to be low.
Yeah.
Then I hit. Then I'm going to play a commercial. And how I do that is I've turned it up. Now I'm hitting commercial break. And after I hit that, you'll see a screen come up. And guys, we'll be back after this commercial break.
Every one of you for tuning in every Monday night to listen to The Shining Wizards. If you'd like to continue to support us outside of listening, we've got a few ways for you to do that. If you shop at Amazon, go over to amazon.shiningwizards.com, do your shopping as usual, and when you make your purchase, a little bit of that purchase price will go back to support the show. If you like to wear t-shirts, merch.shiningwizards.com will take you to our Pro Wrestling Tees store, where we've got over a dozen great designs from over 11 years of professional wrestling podcasting. You can become a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/wizardspodcast, where each and every week we call out your name as one of our show producers, and the more you support us, the more things that you're entitled to receive, and believe me, they are fantastic. If you can't support us monetarily, if you don't shop at Amazon, that's absolutely fine. Continue to listen to us wherever you listen to us on the World Wide Web, and make sure you like, rate, review, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Doesn't cost you anything, helps us out, and we can continue to bring you the love fest that is The Shining Wizards.
What's up, folks? It's your boy, the Impact Player, Mr. Philly Ray, inviting all of you to check out the Turnbuckle Throwbacks Wrestling Podcast. Join us as we cover all things current in the world of pro wrestling, as well as paying homage to the old school, the Squared Circle. So listen in and find out why we are the recognized symbol of excellence in sports entertainment broadcasting. Find us on all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast from. And as always, we are the proudest members of the Shining Wizards Network and Rant Entertainment Media.
Are you tired of being lied to every day by the mainstream media?
Do you want to know what's really going on in the world?
Do you want to make up your own mind about things and not be told what to think or say?
Then listen to Inconclusive Breakdown, a weekly anti-PC look at the world of entertainment and current events, brought to you without censorship or filters.
You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, BitChute, and on ShiningWizardsNetwork.com.
And also, we're a proud member of the Shining Wizards Network.
Got 30 minutes to kill?
Come check out 30 Screams or Less, where we review a horror movie in 30 minutes or less. We cover new movies and old ones too.
We'll give our honest thoughts on the movie, good or shit, as well as a rating of each one that we watch.
New episodes weekly, available on the Shining Wizards Network and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Corey.
Come check us out at 30 Screams or Less.
G'day guys, my name is Thomas, one half of the Broadcast Podcast. With our podcast, we go back and watch wrestling events from WWE, WWF, WCW, ECW, AEW, and many other wrestling promotions. You can check us out on Twitter at The Broadcast, that's TheBrokast, and you can also download all episodes on Apple Podcast, Castbox, Castro, and many other podcast apps.
If you like your music heavy, then check out Radioactive Metal on the Shining Wizards Network. For over 16 years now, Radioactive Metal has been one of the longest running podcasts. Over the years, We've interviewed some legendary metal acts, had some awesome discussions, and cranked a hell of a lot of tunes. So join your cool Uncle Snowy and his co-host Aaron for the audio mosh pit that is radioactive metal here on the Shining Wizards Network.
Well, the action is underway!
What's up, everyone? When on the Shining Wizards Network, be sure to check out Wrestling Night in Canada. If we're not recording another kick-ass podcast,
Or playing in punk bands.
Or recording kick-ass heavy metal albums.
then we're sitting back, we're grabbing a couple brews, and going over everything to do in the world of pro wrestling.
Because we're from Winnipeg, you idiots.
The Mark Order Podcast is the only show you need if you're looking for dedicated coverage of everything AEW on the Shining Wizards Network. Join us live on YouTube every Wednesday night at 10:15 p.m. Eastern after Dynamite to chat along with the show. If you can't join us live, listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on all social channels at Mark Order Pod and use the hashtag #JoinTheMarkOrder, because if you don't find us,
we will find you.
I'm Kevin Rowe.
I'm Al Day.
And we're a couple of down under pounders that co-host Rogue Day Dots, an action figure collecting podcast where we talk about, well, just about anything that tickles our fancy at any given moment.
We're grumpy old men, and sometimes people get on our nerves. And when you get on our nerves, guess what? You get off the lawn.
Get off my lawn, asshole! We also go on a little bit of a mission. We go back and we're grading every wrestling figure line that's out there. I'm talking LJNs. I'm talking Jacks. I'm talking Hasbros. Who doesn't like a little Hulkaplex? It's a Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production found on the Shining Wizards Network.
I'm Duke Bags.
Kevin Rowe.
And together we are the co-hosts of Your Duke and Road. If you want to hear about some terrible wrestling shows, we got you covered.
Well, we talk about good ones, too.
We're currently talking about the death of WCW.
I know what we're fucking talking about. Sometimes we get guest spots, like from the Taskmaster. I like to listen to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast. They're funny guys. That I like when they talk about the Nards plows. I like Nards plows. That's a good move. And I like the Dungeon of Doom. You know, sometimes I call my butt the Dungeon of Doom. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Oklahoma.
Let me tell you a little bit about my favorite wrestling podcast. All right. It's a podcast from two men, Duke Bags, Kevin Rowe. They talk about professional wrestling. It's a man's sport. All right? And who better to talk about a man's sport than Duke Bags? Oklahoma.
And once in a while, Vince Russo stops by.
Oh, you piece of shit! If you're not listening to the Year of Duke and Rope podcast in the back with the boys, piece of shit, I don't know what you're doing. It's, you gotta slide one in there. If you're a man, you're talking about something only a man can do. You're talking about sliding one in there. Bro, take the time to slide one in there. All right, bro, you piece of shit. Slide one in there. A Gorilla Brain Wrestling podcast production that you can find on the Shining Wizards Network.
And we are back at it. So I hope you guys hear about all those awesome shows on the Shining Wizards Network, of which we are a part. Some really good shows there. I mean, we're the best, but there are some really good shows there. So we get to tonight's Dynamite. Now, before delving into this review, I think it's important to note the elephant in the room. I apologize, drank water too fast. The audio for this episode was atrocious. It started echoey, which I could have lived with, and somehow got worse. There are times when I have absolutely no idea what is being said by either commentary or the person in the ring. So that is going to impact our review a slight bit, I would guess. I know it's impacting mine. I'm going to guess it's going to impact Joe's a bit too, where you're kind of assuming you know what was going on because it was atrocious. Now, from what we understand, it was a TBS error. The fight broadcast, which is for international, had no issues whatsoever. Everyone seemed to get the full thing. It seemed to be just in America, which is TBS, and Tony Khan tweeted that it was TBS. So for those wondering about AEW's new TV deal, I think having a broadcast partner who's forgiving when you totally mess up their audio, not a bad thing to have, especially when you're in the live business.
I feel like it happened a year before at Daly's place as well, where they were getting the wrong audio feed or something. Like, remember for a while they were broadcasting like a basketball game or something during
Yes.
I
do.
feel like they've had some other snafus, especially while at Daly's place.
Yeah. Now the problem is I don't know if it's because it's Daly's place or they're just at Daly's place enough. It's the law of averages, but again, it's apparently TBS, and if you're anything that's a check in AEW's favor where they're like, yeah, whatever. Not yeah, whatever, but like we work with you. So
not whatever when you have all these people online like tweeting at AEW nonstop saying your broadcast is garbage. You need to fix this when it's not necessarily their fault.
Oh no, but I have a feeling AEW isn't going to give Warner Brothers a really tough time about this. I have a feeling that's going to be. We'll use this as a little sweetening of the deal. The art of the deal. The art of the deal.
But yes, it was like watching tonight's show if I watched it basically on mute. If I didn't have any context,
or
a promo,
someone's phone.
Yes, like I'm not there. Just hold it up at the event so I know what's going on.
Yeah. Audio wise, not video wise was fine, but audio wise, it was like someone's through someone's phone. So we start out with a promo we start out with the car arriving, and it's the EVPs, Nicholas and Matthew Jackson and Okada, and then another car shows up, and it's the scapegoat, Jack Perry. I guess Jungle Boy is completely dead at this point. And security made a move to stop Jack Perry from entering the building because, again, he's not an AEW employee at this point. I really do appreciate it, and I will say this. I'm going to say it now. They showed Jack Perry the footage of Jack Perry tearing up his AEW contract on New Japan Television. So I really do appreciate that they brought that full circle. That there was a point to that. However, the Young Bucks flex their EVP muscle, I'm guessing, and say, hey, he's with us. I kind of gathered that by the pointing at themselves. So they let Jack Perry in, and he is seen eventually going into Tony Khan's office. Intrigue. But then we cut back to the arena where you hear Orange Cassidy's music, and you hear Orange Cassidy's music, and you hear Orange Cassidy's music. Eventually, you see Orange Cassidy come flying out the entrance. He's being beat up by Trent Beretta, which he didn't walk out right away. I knew that's what was happening, but I appreciated it. And Trent beats Orange Cassidy all the way to the ring, and he has the best friend shirt on, except he has orange blacked out on it. So it says Trent with Chuck. So Trent calls out Chucky and says, this guy was brought in here to be our mascot, which is true. And now he's bigger than all of us. The jealousy, the hatred. So he makes Chuck decide, who's your best friend? And Chuck gets the moment he's been waiting for since he started AEW. He got to say shit on television. And he told Trent that he was full of shit, and he went after Trent. And Trent ducked out of the ring. So Trent is going solo as a bad guy. We got Orange with Chucky still. But then Chucky, I almost forgot. Chucky challenged. Chuck said, they're not going to clear me to be in the ring, but I don't want to fight you in the ring. I want you in the street. We're going to have a street fight. So you're going to have Chuck versus Trent in a street fight. Joe, Who's your best friend?
I don't know. Maybe I'll use the answer I used earlier and say the man in the mirror.
That's lonely.
I mean, I was going to say something far more inappropriate, but the man in the mirror works.
I didn't want to know who your girlfriend is. It's a best friend.
Yeah.
So what'd you think?
I'm glad we were really kind of like we're moving this along pretty quickly now after the long seas of Will Trent turn. Having Chuck not turn didn't surprise me. The questions I'm left with is one, where does Sue side in all this? I would love to see a Hill Sue. I would like to see her van get souped up and be like Thunderdome Mad Max Sue. And then also if not Chuck, but if Trent has to face Orange and Chuck, who will help maybe sides with Trent to combat those two?
Okay.
I mean, did Rocky Romero fall into this somewhere?
I don't think Danhausen's around anymore, so it'd just be Rocky. What about?
It wasn't a really good play for Danhausen because I feel like he could have really done his kind of heelish Danhausen version and go on
Breaking in the shadows, whispering in Trent's ear.
Go on his little spike tour. But because they did talk about Orange Cassidy kind of like being their mascot initially and how he kind of overshadowed the best friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting. I'm with you. I like that they sped it up. It was dragging for a little while. Now it's full speed ahead. They tend to do that. They tend to drag things a little long, and then when they decide to hit it, it goes full speed ahead. 2LT asking who will Sue side with. I hope Sue hits Chuck with her van. It's her son, so she's gonna side with her son.
Right.
So it'd just be really funny if she hits Chucky with the van. I mean, that's just my humblest of humble opinion.
Well, I mean, if it's a street fight, she gotta show up, right?
That's exactly it. So hit with the van down by a river.
Or she comes and delivers Trent like a cake, and the cake has a crowbar in it.
My boy, my baby boy. So after that we go to what was some people viewed as an interesting call. We had Swerve Strickland versus Kyle Fletcher. And the reason some people thought this was an interesting call is that he just won the belt. You thought he'd come out and have like an extended promo and like this almost like a celebration and like this whole. Instead, he has a match. Now, the match was awesome because Kyle Fletcher is really good and Swerve is really good. There was a double stomp on the apron that looked awesome, and then Swerve sold that he had a leg injury, he sold that like crazy, and I actually almost believed it because how ugly the stomp can be. And so I saw Kyle take the leg and put it in an ankle lock. Swerve won with the house call at the end, but it was a very good match. I just went over some of the highlights and I'll let Joey talk about some of them. But the point being is that people were like, this just feels odd that he doesn't get any kind of celebration. He goes right into a match. My opinion is I see what they were trying to do. I don't know if they nailed it. I think they would have. One, I have no idea what commentary said. So commentary might have justified this a lot better than I think. They may not have. Because what you want to do is say that Swerve didn't want a celebration. Swerve didn't want it. He wanted to come out and show right away who he is. It's because it's a character building thing then. But I don't know because I couldn't hear. And as far as I know, they just had this match and just felt a little weird. So a couple things. Did you think it was weird? What'd you think of the match?
I did think it was weird. I thought the match was good between the two. I thought it would be because I think Kyle Fletcher had the potential to be that next up and coming, in that Ospreay mold. So it was just odd, but at the same time, knowing with the program having the audio issues it did for some of the audience, maybe it was a blessing in disguise that we didn't have a celebration promo segment from Swerve. Maybe he can have one next week or wherever he's on TV next, and you'll be able to actually hear. I liked Fletcher. I felt Fletcher's look had really improved as far as his presentation. I liked his all-white gear, and I think being a part of the Callis family kind of helped elevate him a little bit and made him stand out a little bit more as a single competitor. The match itself was much more mat-based than I thought it was going to be initially. I thought maybe the two would go a little bit quicker, but they really wrestled kind of that first quarter or first half of the match. Just chain wrestling on the mat. The stomp that Swerve hit on Fletcher, where he came up limp on his ankle, that looked nasty. I thought Fletcher just like whiplashed his head on the apron when he took the stomp. Yeah. And then I didn't understand what was going on with Fletcher when Callis told Fletcher to do something, and then he went and kind of went under the apron to look under the ring for something really quick, and then went back in. I never got context of what was going on there.
Again, I think that's where audio came into play. I don't think we heard what we were supposed to hear. But yeah, I'm with you. That thought the whiplash. 2LT Colonel Photo said he wanted a Mark Davis return. We all do, but makes me, if they're still pushing Kyle this much on his own, makes me think Mark's probably not close. I know nothing. I'm not a scoopster. But yeah, and you're right. Kyle has been elevated by being part of the Callis family. I know people were kind of like, what's going on with the Callis family? But it does, at least because of who he's with. It makes him, like, it automatically puts him at that level. Like, you're with Ospreay, you're with Takeshita, you're with Hobbs. Like, people know who you are then. You're not just some rando. He told Fletcher, Jesse thinks he told Fletcher to do a number 4. They're illegal in most states. Backstage, we have Renee interviewing Thunder Rosa, who gets interrupted by Deanna, and Deanna basically saying, like, I keep saving your ass, what the hell? And then they start fighting. I actually really like this because they never actually got along. They were working together to take down Tony, and Thunder Rosa failed. So I could see Deanna being annoyed by that, because Deanna did not have the help against Tony Storm. The Thunder did. So I could see that being a problem. And I think it's a great feud for both of them. I love that they're not. We talked about it last week. We'll talk about it again. But they used to in old AEW, when a woman's challenger lost, she disappeared. Bye-bye. You're gone. Never see you for a year. Not anymore. You're actively going into another big feud. I love that, because Thunder, you're taking 2 former number 1 contenders and having them feud. Like, that's a major feud. So I like that. I like that they're doing that. Any additional thoughts?
Just 2 very proud, strong, independent women who just want to do things on their own, and they can't coexist. But this does kick off a fun little portion of the show where I was counting is like we got 9 of members of the women's division all on TV within a half hour.
That's very nice, actually, and mostly unrelated.
Yeah, just
unrelated, like
bang, bang, bang.
Yeah. So you had Anna Jay versus Mina Shirakawa from Stardom in what was a pretty fun match. I think Anna's shown her skills against these Stardom women. Listen, Stardom is known for producing some very, very talented female wrestlers. Sorry. You can look at AEW, you can look at WWE. You know, you're talking some of the best women wrestlers come from there, or at least have been through there. Mina Shirakawa wins by her move, the Glamorous Collection. But again, I think there was a lot of I don't know necessarily call it hard hitting, but it had the image of it, and I think Anna really showed up. What's interesting about this, one, I think there's 2 things. We'll talk about the post in a second. The interesting thing about the match to me was, I think these matches are designed for 2. This match was designed for 2 reasons. One, obviously to continue to put Mina Shirakawa over, because she's out with Mariah May. Mariah May and her had a Stardom stable. and Mariah May's. We're very obvious to start the story of Mariah May. She's going to get stuck between who she was, who she is, and what she will be. She's going to be stuck in that triangle. Anna Jay. So that's a serious study for me. Anna Jay, I think it's one in the real sense. It's the rebuilding of Anna Jay, but in the more storyline sense, it's the rebuilding of Anna Jay. Like I think both are actually matching up. I think even in storyline, this is Anna Jay with something to prove. This is Anna Jay showing like I belong here. All these women are coming in, they're taking my spot. I still belong here. And then Big G's asking, is Anna Jay supposed to be face? Well, that was the weird thing. We thought maybe, but after the match, Anna Jay pops, knocks out, I believe, Mina, or does something to Mina, and then starts choking out Mariah May until Timeless Tony comes out to make the save, adding intrigue upon intrigue upon intrigue. So Anna Jay clearly not a face anymore. Well, this is, I got 3 things to point out here. Because then as Tony's coming out to help her friend, Serena Deeb walks out, sits down on the steps, picks up the woman's title, puts it across her lap, starts saying something. I did not hear word one of what she said. But she's basically challenging Toni Storm for the title. Now, I love that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. But here's my 3-part thing. Anna clearly is heel. I believe we're seeing Toni and Mariah May are now face because Serena's heel. Did they just make Toni face without actually saying anything? And you can speak about the match too. Do the whole thing. Go.
Yeah, that's a lot. I thought the match was really good for 2 people who obviously weren't familiar, probably wrestling each other. I had no idea Mina had only been a wrestler for 5 years. So I think she's really has adapted to wrestling pretty quickly in 5 years. I heard her music. Whenever I hear her music and she comes out, I don't know what it is, but it sounds like the same rhythm or song as the last song in Fast and the Furious Fast 5. If you go back and listen to it, there's a lot of similar beats to it. That's neither here or there, but I do like her finishing move, that glamorous collection, and the way that she traps the leg for the pin. That was kind of fun, different to see in AEW. As far as Anna Jay goes, maybe she's turning. Maybe she's eventually going to snap again. And, she had that strain for a while where she was in her crazy, I'm going to choke you out phase. And she would just, snap and choke people out. Maybe she's going to lean into that more. And, yeah, I don't know. I guess you can turn Tony face and make Mariah the heel. If she ends up going with Mina and they somehow backstab Toni Storm. So I can see that. I think that's the more logical thing to do, would make her a face. And the Serena thing, I think that'll be a fun match between her and Toni. I think Serena, we're talking about the next time she touches or holds the belt, it's after she wins it off of Toni.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I said, it's an interesting development because it's 3. Well, Serena's character is not changing. Her character is staying the same. She's just getting boosted up to the main event picture, which she's good enough. She deserves it. It looks like it. What'd you say?
You said she's good enough. I said she's smart enough. And I guess doggone it, people like her.
Oh, that's a good call. Great pull, Joe. See, now I'm doing the Chris Farley show. You went that route, and then I go into the Chris Farley show. Do you remember that match against Mina Shirakawa? That was really cool. But you have 3. If you Anna possibly changing her character, maybe not. You have Toni and Mariah, not necessarily changing characters, but kind of leaning a different way. Maybe not. So they've definitely started something. I think the clearest is Anna going heel, because attacking someone after a match is very much a heel move.
And she's done this now a couple times, and now,
yeah, she has a temper. we go on to.
Well, for a while, didn't she say she had a bad attitude and a fat ass or something like that?
She still got both, so
yeah, go with it.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see if she teams up with anyone. She was doing what is it, AZM or whatever. Azumi, I think was her name or whatever from Stardom. I don't know if she'll stay with her, if she'll go to someone else from Stardom who's got some bad attitude. It's very interesting. We come back and 2LT. Jesse, first of all, Jesse is wait, I got a couple comments here before everyone. Big G says it reminds me of the Mousetrap. Fair. Jesse Ozak saying, well, they're setting a beloved triangle, right? Well, it's a wrestling friend triangle, but okay. Because I mean, maybe it's a. Maybe it's a
how often are you kissing your friends, like making out with your friends?
Oh, you never know. That's true, but they haven't expressed. See, it's weird. Like it is love, but it's also like feels wrong because it's your mentor-mentee relationship. Feels like an abuse of power, but that's neither here nor there. And then drawing Serena into this is definitely a wild card. She is the wild card. Yes, Tony has kissed Mariah. My problem is the mentor-mentee scenario, but that's maybe why I'm looking at it wrong because I just. Anyway, we go back and we have Stokely Hathaway, Chris Statlander, in the ring, and they're just hanging out, and all of a sudden you hear introduced Willow Nightingale. Now, from what I understand, Caprice Coleman was doing the commentary, and he did his rap. I could hear he was rapping. I could not hear the words, and there was no Ian Riccaboni, so I don't know if I want to hear it. They're a partnership. They're a band of brothers. What's up, meat? Hope you're enormous. Get it? I don't know, dude. I don't. Anyway, Willow comes out for her celebration, and has a like gives Stokely introduces her, and 2 pounds. I know he said 2 pounds of ass because I saw that quote flying around on Twitter. Then Willow comes out and actually starts cutting a pretty decent promo. You know, I was here in 2020, standing around the ring, just trying to get seen. I was here in 2022 when my name got put up on the board, and I'm here now. Like that, quite honestly, a great promo showing her progression from please God, just notice me to I've made it to the big show to I'm on top of the world. They get interrupted by the CEO. Kate said I had to dance, so I danced. I don't know which way she does her hands. I forget, so I'm doing it both ways.
Just think of it as rain coming down. Yes, rain.
The rain fall down. What am I saying? Am I singing a Hillary Duff song? I am. Oh my God.
You are.
Dear God.
Get back on track.
So Big G saying the Glory Hog Mercedes Moon. I do think that's actually part of it. I actually believe they're doing that intentionally. Norm is pointing out audio issues, but yeah, nonstop all night continued through here. I could hear Monet, but not really. What I found interesting was they said that they brought up the attacks and they used logic. Are you the one who attacked me? Well, she got attacked. How are you not the one who attacked her? I wouldn't attack her. And then Stokely went, we know it's Julia. Like, so I kind of liked that. Which I still think it's Statlander, but at least there's a little bit of fun. But then they went to the heart of the issue, which I think was really glad they did it, which was Willow looks at Mercedes and goes, before the attack, you had your issue with me. Do you think I hurt you on purpose? And Mercedes kind of doesn't say yes or no. From what I gathered, she was just kind of like,
she said that you don't want to hear the truth.
That's what I mean. Like, so the Mercedes didn't answer.
If you want to read between the lines,
I guess. But Monet says, Willow, you can't beat me. But then Willow says, "Hey, last time I won this is an asterisk because you were hurt. There's going to be no asterisk there's no asterisk on this now, and there's not going to be one when I beat you at Double or Nothing." And then Chris went to grab Mercedes' arm. Mercedes thought it was Willow. Turns around, it's not Willow. The whole drama. We're getting Mercedes. Kate told me how to do it. We're getting Mercedes versus Willow at Double or Nothing. Thoughts on the celebration, the Mercedes promo? Are you a CEO? Are you CFO? Are you COO?
I'm trying to think. I'd be I think COO. I like operating officer.
There you go.
I don't want to be financial. It was one of my favorite Willow promos. I thought it hit on a lot of different notes as far as the celebratory part of it, the history of her career getting to that point, and then when Mercedes Moné came up, the history between those two, and that helps build the match at Double or Nothing. So I thought her promos were just solid. I think they were far better than what Mercedes threw out there tonight. I do like this Mercedes Moné. I feel like she's kind of cranking up her self, like you said, glory hogging, selfish kind of heel persona more that she's great at. I like her in that role against Willow. And I think we all know it's Statlander who attacked her or did something, right? Because no one jumps in there. She's the first one that jumps in there right away. And she's like, maybe it was you who attacked yourself. And that's just, you're guilty when you throw the blame at someone else.
Agreed. Agreed. Or it could be a mysterious newcomer. I don't know. I'm just being.
Yeah, it's Statlander.
I'm with you. I just wanted to. Then we cut back to Alex Marvez. It's a really quick segment, but I thought it was really funny because Alex asked Jack, "Are you reinstated?" And he gets like a thing. And then he asked Okada, "Is Jack reinstated?" He gets a hand pat on the shoulder. Then he asked, I believe it was Nicholas, "Is he reinstated?" He gets a hand pat. Finally, he asked Matt. Matt goes, he just agreed to talk to him tonight in the ring. But I just thought it was so funny as they all walked by and just gave him that. And then he would repeat the same exact question to the next guy. Nothing really came of it. It was just they gave us a recap of Jack in New Japan, which again, that's where they showed the contract being ripped up and stuff. All very good. All tying it all together and what's been going on. We then had a fun but extremely confusing match when you couldn't hear commentary. It was a international championship, continental championship. Yeah, nope. International championship. It was the international championship. Sorry, whatever's. International championship casino gauntlet match, something like that.
One
was the number one contender.
You're gonna call it the Intercontinental belt.
That's why I was like really trying not to. The rules, I eventually figured out the rules, but it took a second. And it took me eventually hearing some of what commentary was saying.
I thought the rule was basically you tap pin someone.
Well, that was the rule. But see, like, here's the thing. It played out like a Royal Rumble in that. So it was kind of a mix. In a typical gauntlet match, two guys meet, one guy pins, the next guy comes out, he has to be him. It didn't have that. Two guys would meet, and then someone else would come out at a timed interval, like a Royal Rumble. Not over the rope, not Battle of the Royal. The difference is you didn't have to beat everyone who came out. If the first two out were Dante Martin and Switchblade Jay White, if Jay White had pinned Dante right away, he would have won the whole thing before anyone got to come out. The key to this match is the longer it goes, the more they're just going to keep sending guys out.
In the end, to simplify this, I think that someone overthought this concept.
Correct.
Like, we've done the Casino Battle Royal, but let's do something different.
They could have very easily done it. If it were me, there's one or two ways you could have done this that I think would have been simpler. Straight up gauntlet match. Everyone's done that. Or casino gauntlet match which is you do everything like they did it, which is one guy at intervals, except you can't pin anyone until everyone's out. And then that just kind of like
because the outcome of having to pin someone and sorry jumping to the end, but like having Osprey pin who was he pin Commander?
Yeah, because
I mean,
so
that doesn't really set anything up. So like, what's the point of him pinning him where you could have easily just thrown him over the top?
yeah, so I would have preferred Gauntlet. If you ask my real way, I would have wanted straight Gauntlet because what I would have done is you could have had I would have started off with the two you started out with, Dante Martin and Jay White, and I would have had them go. I would have had Jay White last until Kyle O'Reilly, like multiple men down, and
yeah,
I would have then had Osprey be the last.
Yeah, I like the idea of the gauntlet because it also sets up a lot of storylines between guys, right? You can revisit singles matches for future episodes of Rampage and Collision and Dynamite that play off of, hey, you got in my way or you did this to, block me from having a title shot.
Yeah, I mean the other way you could have done it is maybe if you wanted to get fancy with it, you could have done 3 guys in the ring at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's always a triple threat. That way you could have had some of the interplay they wanted to have between Kyle O'Reilly and Osprey, between Osprey and Jay White because they have the history. And that, don't get me wrong, Osprey and Jay White lining up was awesome. I actually think, as weird as this sounds, I think this did a fairly decent thing for Jay White because I think he ended up looking really good in the match. I don't know if anybody's going to remember it. His life is going to live in the trios. I pray to God they rebuild that. But I think he looked really good tonight. He had some big moments. The end was awesome. So in the end, Osprey has O'Reilly in what's going to be the Tiger Driver. And he says, no, I'm done with that move. I've hurt someone. Kyle's had problems with his neck. I can't do it. O'Reilly then reverses what Osprey goes to do something else. O'Reilly reverses it into an armbar. And then Commander walks the ropes, does a shooting star onto O'Reilly. That could have been the match. Almost has him pinned. Osprey comes out of nowhere and nails the hidden blade on Commander and pins him. It was a really cool ending sequence. The big notice here is that Osprey doesn't want to do didn't want to do the Tiger Driver to someone with a bad neck. We talked about this earlier. It's a very interesting Osprey development. The second thing that happens is that the Undisputed Kingdom comes out and you have a stare down between Osprey and Roderick Strong, which was a lot of fun. This is going to be a hell of a match. Any other thoughts?
No, I was surprised of who they had in this gauntlet with Osprey and Jay White and O'Reilly, some other bigger names. Because usually I feel like these matches kind of have the mid-card, low mid-card guys in it a lot of times. So I was surprised to see some of the names in it. I think. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else the only other thing is I wish they would have told us ahead of time how many people were in it instead of, finding out halfway through the match or like the announcers said, oh, we just heard there'll be 21 guys. Just you could at least said like, hey, there's 21 people. We don't know who they are.
Yeah, they just said 21. Jesse, I would disagree mightily. Ned Flanders might be one of the most scary individuals I've ever met ever thought about in my life. A man with that kind of religious conviction who has a 6-pack abs, which has been established by the show, he's going to kill someone at some point. Like, let's just be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we've seen him in some of the Treehouse of Horror episodes where he goes off the rails. And
yeah, exactly. He did. He did become a killer at one point. Mike Pearson, as much as you annoy me, I got to give you credit. Stupid, sexy Roddy is a great Simpsons reference. Stupid, sexy Flanders. And Big G, I hope they replace Juice. They hope they have Juice replace Jay White so Jay can focus entirely on the singles. Agreed. So then we move on we go to I was passed over the segment, and I wish I had. You have Chris Jericho come out, and actually, I say that, but I didn't mind. Yeah, it went too long, but I don't mind what they're doing. You had Chris Jericho come out. He said he's the FTW champion, which is for the world, because he's for the world. He tells a story of Terry Funk telling him it's his time to impart his knowledge and wisdom and whatever onto these kids and make them better. And Hulk needs to get rid of the dead weight, such as Taz and Shibata, which is everyone loves that. And then out comes Big Bill Morrissey. And Big Bill says he needs to be under the learning tree. And Jericho says, I like you. He says he's there. He's the reason he's there, because Jericho takes credit for everyone being there. Let me see what you have, and if I think you should be part of the learning tree. And Big Bill said, you watch, I'll do it. I get it. Jericho's so clearly leaning heel at this point. We talked about it earlier, if it's good or bad, but it's at least he's leaning into it. What else? I don't mind them doing this with Big Bill, though. Big Bill needed something.
Yeah, I feel like the character gives me an awful lot of similarities. The learning tree character gives me a lot of similarities of what Matthew and Nicholas are doing as EVPs, though. I feel like there's a lot of similarity between the false sincerity that they're giving off.
There is, but it's a little bit different because the EVPs are doing it from like the money and power, and Jericho's the old guy being like, I'm not ready to give up my spot, so let me undermine you if I can. What?
Knowledge is power, though. Come on.
It is. Knowing is half the battle.
It is. Roadblock taught me that. I think there could be some fun vignettes and segments with Jericho. I'm looking forward to Jericho basically having a kindergarten classroom where he's sitting in a chair, and you have Big Bill, who's a giant 7-foot guy, sitting crisscross applesauce, listening to Jericho tell him what he should do to better himself as a wrestler. But otherwise, I'm kind of getting tired of Jericho being in factions, whether it's Inner Circle, the JAS, now the Learning Tree.
Well, I do think there's a reason for that now, though. I don't think he can wrestle on his own all the time anymore. So I think they're. Oh, Jesse. Joe, you want to read this?
G.I. Asian Joe.
Real American hero. G.I. Asian Joe is there. G.I. Asian Joe is the G.I. Joe's filled with all Asians. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm going to stop.
Yes.
So then we go to Don Callis in the back talking to Ospreay, being like, hey, you should have used a Tiger Driver. And Ospreay explaining why he didn't. And Callis being like, you need to use anything you can to win, which is kind of funny because Ospreay's winning anyway. A little bit of development there. Fletcher tried to defend Will, and Callis cut him off. So I like that. I like that Fletcher and Will are like the two. And Callis is on the outside. However, I do think they're setting it up so that Fletcher betrays Ospreay. That's my wrestling fandom has taught me that that's where that story goes.
And all this time, I thought you wanted them to break off from the Callis family.
I do. What I want is
United Empire?
Yes. What I think will happen is not that. So then we go to the main event match of the evening. We have one Moxley, who is the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, versus Powerhouse Will Hobbs. It is for the IWGP Championship. They get out of the ring. This was actually relatively quick, but I think there was a reason. They got out of the ring really quickly. And Powerhouse was kind of dominating Moxley for a bit. Then Moxley sent Powerhouse to the floor at one point, and Hobbs kind of came up gripping his knee. But almost as soon as he got in the ring, he got hit with a paradigm shift in the sleeper and was out. I'm not I'm okay. Like if this is a story, it's a story. But it felt again. I don't like. You don't need to lie to me. Like, but like, it seems like this ended quicker than they wanted.
It felt like maybe it was a legit injury because
Yes,
usually
that's what I'm saying.
when you have a rush finish like that, and then you have the trainers and the doctor come to the ring, and they didn't show him at all after the loss. They just focused on tight shots of Moxley. That's usually always kind of that indicator that it's probably a legit injury, and so hopefully just nothing major.
Yeah, it's the sad because like you don't want that to be. You hope he's okay. I hope all anytime I see a wrestler go out with injury, I hope it's storyline because you don't want anyone to be hurt. It felt real. It was a very quick ending once that injury happened, which is usually indicative of because typically if it's a fake injury, he gets back in and Mox works it. And it seems like that match ended and it was like 9:47, 9:48, and it felt like they vamped for a few minutes.
Yeah, they stretched time to let Mox have a little bit more celebration.
Takeshita came out to issue a challenge to Mox. So we're gonna see that. Then they went so like it felt like they stretched that, and then we cut back and we go to Renee in the back with Katsuri Shibata. Shibata is using his phone to translate, and he says he's going to challenge Chris Jericho for the FTW Championship next week, and he then complimented Renee's outfit. So we get Shibata versus Jericho. Then we get the real main event. The main event. In the ring. No one's in the ring. Well, in the ring's Tony Schiavone. And Schiavone calls for Jack Perry. What I love is he came out with no music, nothing. He just walked out as a guy. And he called out Tony Khan to hey, this is he has to handle business. Well, he started off kind of like a baby face, being like, this was the place where I had some great times. But then he called him out and he's like, let's all I've ever wanted is what's best for AEW. Let's get back together. Let's be buddies. Okay, they hug, raise the hand. There was a smile by Jack Perry that just was evil looking, raises the hand. And I'm looking at the clock. I'm going, still a lot of time left. Even if Mox's match had gone the full length, there'd still be time left. They're not. No. And what I was thinking was going to happen is exactly what happened. Jack Perry turns around and decks Tony Khan now in the gut because I think for Tony it was the easiest way to sell the punch. Now Tony Khan's a small guy; he's going down if you punch him in the gut like that out of nowhere. I mean, I would go down if you punch me in the gut like that out of nowhere. So he's down on the ground selling it. Out come the EVPs and Okada, and they go to pick up. They're like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" They go to pick up Tony Khan, and they very blatantly have him in the EVP trigger position. No. Not going to do it. They stand him up. They dust him up. And then I believe
Okada.
Okada gave a double thumbs up, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Tony Khan gets picked upside down. And it's a Meltzer driver to Tony Khan. And that is how we end. And then people run down, they get kicked out. We actually end Dynamite with a picture with Shad Khan out there looking at his son, which some people don't like. I think it was a nice touch. I don't think Shad's going to be involved in the angle or anything. I just think it was like to sell the severity of it. Even his dad is here. I'm fully willing to eat my words if Shad becomes like a player in this. I will not retire, but I will apologize and say I was wrong, but I don't think he's gonna be it. So Joe, would you Meltzer Driver your boss? And what did you think?
No, because there's usually repercussions. So I'm hoping that Tony has a statement prepared or something, and he talks about how he feared for his life being held in the Meltzer driver, or whatever they call it now. Oh, they call it the TK driver now.
Well, I think, yeah, but I think I go back to Meltzer driver at this point.
Well, so
Well, then again, you drove TK. Man, I don't know. You're right.
It makes sense. I question the idea of him. Because for years, Tony said he didn't want to be an on-air character. He wanted to try to stay off of the TV show, and he's really been a part of this whole storyline now, with the backstage segments with the Bucks to now taking bumps in the ring, and then having his dad come out and play up the injury. I hope it works out. I don't want it to be a jump the shark moment. Sometimes it works out well with but usually it works out better if the boss is the dickhead and not just an innocent guy, or the face.
So I agree with that. Now, there's a couple things here. One, I don't think Tony Khan's going to be a regular character. I don't think he wants to be. I think he knows his strengths and his weaknesses, and I don't think he thinks he's a good enough actor to be a regular TV character. Two, this is the first time he's really been part of a story, and it's very much a story that involves him outside of the wrestling world, so it makes sense. Three, I fucking love I loved the segment. Four, I'm gonna go to four. The EVPs are gonna have to explain how they don't all lose their jobs.
Go to 5, you coward.
5.
There you go.
I think what you're gonna find out, I think Tony. I don't know. Actually, I don't know if Tony's gonna have his crew defend him. I honestly don't know where it's gonna go there. I don't. I really don't.
I think there has to be a group or a stable of people who try to fight, fight the good fight, and on behalf of Tony to go against the elite. And maybe that starts off when you have Kenny Omega returning this week on camera, and he can start to plant the seeds of another group of wrestlers who are going to try to combat the elite.
So Matthew and Nicholas Jackson have tweeted, "Thank you for watching #AEW Dynamite tonight. What a great show that was on the @TBS Network. What a thrilling ending. Justified this is awesome chance at the end. This is an exciting show on a road to AEW Double or Nothing tonight on TBS. Thank you all for watching." He did a Tony Khan tweet. They did a Tony Khan tweet.
It will be interesting to know if they in kayfabe say "Oh, TK's not here, so we have to run the show."
I'm assuming they're going to justify it based on some form of what their EVP contracts say. Of it's probably going to be twofold. One, our EVP contracts are ironclad. You can't fire us. Two, the rules of AEW state that everyone, including you, that have signed Tony, is that if you step into the ring, you volunteer yourself to become an active competitor. Some bullshit like that. That's what I would do.
Right.
Because you're going to have to justify how you don't lose your jobs.
There was no glass spot, though.
No.
I thought
there was a Crimea River chant.
There was an old Crimea River chant.
Crimea River.
Jack is very kind of over initially.
I think people are into him.
Yeah.
I think he works. They were struggling to make him a heel. They were, and this somehow works.
Because he grew a beard.
He grew a beard. He has a leather jacket. He is legit.
You can be a heel, Ryan. Just grow a beard, throw on a leather jacket.
I'm shaving tomorrow, so no. Well, this will stay, but the rest is going. It's like I said. I'm very much. I am one of the people who when I watch these things, you don't have to drown me in logic. I'm willing to take the ride and make logic leaps to enjoy things. this is so basic that even I need like an explanation. Like I will need like, how do you not lose your job? Like, especially because the whole premise of this promo was that Jack wanted his job back. So like, how do you not like? So I think it's gonna have to be some, you know, it works because Jack Perry's the great member of the greatest faction in his wrestling history, House of Torture. Mike Peterson, why are you a troll? But yeah, that was Dynamite. Any last thoughts, Yosef?
No, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next week in Winnipeg with Kenny Omega back.
That's right. We are getting a Kenny Omega appearance next week. I don't think he's back for good, but maybe. I have a feeling they're in Winnipeg, you idiot. So they want to show him.
But it'll be good for him to come up, and hopefully the EVPs are there. It'll be the first kind of maybe interaction between them since they kicked him out. And now after he's watched them, Meltzer drive Tony, what kind of reaction will he have to everything?
Yeah. I mean, he's clearly going to be against them. So now I don't think he's ready. I mean, I think the last we had heard, they still didn't know if he needed surgery or not. There's like diverticulitis is brutal. It's a brutal thing. But if he is, and he needs some allies.
Hey man.
Well, there's Hangman. But I hear there's two guys.
From the Motor City?
From the Motor City. We got the weaponry.
Where's this one? Can't remember. Which hand? This hand? I need Kyle K. That's his area.
So that might be where we get some. I love faction wars. You'll never hear me say I don't. All right, so that was our AEW Dynamite for. Oh, we're still on the same day, April 24th. Joe, when you are not here on Wednesday night, where can we find you?
Well, Ryan, occasionally you can find me on Saturday nights. When we have a Collider cast that I'm available for, or when it's not 3 hours long or delayed. Otherwise, beyond that, I'm on social media at _Asian Joe. And in my bios of that, you can find a link to my serial review blog. Ryan?
When I'm not here, I'm on our Collider cast if we have it. Is Collision and Rampage together this week or just Collision?
It is. So Rampage will start at like 11:30.
People, we will be giving you. There might not be a Collider cast this week. We'll be updating you.
I won't be here, so it'll be Ryan.
Yeah, Joe's not gonna be. It'll be me. So it's a matter of finding guests and do we do 3 hours? I don't know. I hate to miss 2 in a row, but that is a.
Yeah, Collision will start at 8:30 Eastern, and so Rampage will be 10:30 Eastern.
That's late and long. A lot. We'll see. I'll make that call closer to the day. But you can follow me on all our socials at Mark Order Pod. Joe, you want to show our t-shirts one last time?
Sure, if you don't have one.
Well, you have them up.
Yeah.
So you can go buy our t-shirts. ProWrestlingTees.com/MarkOrderPod. That's ProWrestlingTees.com/MarkOrderPod. Thank you, Joe. So follow us on all our socials at Mark Order Pod. You can follow my history blog here for history.com at _here for history on socials. And we thank you for joining us tonight. I am going to be turning up the music so I can go out. I'm hitting outro. I am putting up the outro.
This concludes the Mark Order Podcast. We now return you to your regularly scheduled programming.